Ah, welcome back to another episode of Standard Guard. So nice to have you back here today. There's so many things we have to discuss, but I think paramount is what is going on at the ostrich farm. And I have been trying to find out for the last couple of hours. And the last text I got from Katie was that they're coming to kill. And literally, I'm looking at this here, and Katie said, they're coming to kill tonight. They're coming to kill tonight to kill. That's the last word I got from Katie. I don't know. I've tried to reach her this morning. She's responded. She thinks that exactly when this show is broadcasting, they might be facing this attack from the CFIA. I don't know what to tell you, folks, because this has really brought me down. I'm writing a Substack right now about this because this has nothing to do with science. This has nothing to do with doing things the right way. It's got everything to do with doing things the wrong way because it's politics. Now, bear with me, folks. When does science becomes politics and when does politics become science? It's equal. This is exactly what's happening in Canada right now. Science is whatever the government says it is. Can you think of other governments in the past that were like that? And bear in mind, if you don't want me to read this Substack, I hasn't even been out yet, but I've got more clips for you and everything else later. But I wanted to read this to you because I think it's important. As I write this, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, CFIA, otherwise known as the Agricultural SS or Carney Gestapo, is preparing to invade the Universal Ostrich Farms in Edgewood, BC. I've just gotten off the line with the farm spokeswoman, Katie Besidney, who has been providing me with up-to-the-minute briefings on what's happening. The CFIA has apparently contracted something called Nucor Environmental Solutions. And I didn't put this in the column, but this is amazing. So they want to get rid of these birds, these healthy birds, with a toxic energy company or a company that deals with toxic waste. How, shall we say, pregnant with idiocy is that? Dozens of RCMP officers and cars have been congregating at nearby BC, for Vernon, BC, and are preparing to invade the farm as the sun rises on this Monday morning. So I called last night and I said, "What's going on, Katie?" And people were sending me emails all night long. I didn't get to bed till about 3 o'clock in the morning because I didn't want to miss this. I wish I was there. I want to be at that farm right now. And I'll say more about that in a minute about phony journalists, phony broadcasters on YouTube and other social media who just sit on their fat ass in their basement and do nothing. Do nothing except report other people's news. That's not journalism. Get out there and do it yourself. And I should be out in BC right now. Unfortunately, I was covering a real event this weekend in Ottawa. But I am sick to death of these phony broadcasters who go out there and they show everybody else's news and they say, "Oh, I'm so outraged." And they get 100,000 views for that shit. Sorry for my language, but I'm sick of it. Anyway, let me continue. Let me continue. How incredibly stupid and unnecessary this has all been. This is politics again, pretending to be science, just as it did in Nazi Germany and Soviet Russia. When the state bought the research it wanted to hear, the Nazi most identified with perverted science is Dr. Joseph Mengele, the notorious angel of death, who decided who was to be gassed immediately and who was to be worked to death at the Auschwitz extermination camp. Mengele used the survivors in diabolical experiments that recognized neither the pain nor the humanity of its subjects, as he attempted to either prove Nazi racial theories or just satisfy his curiosity over how much torture people could endure without dying. Mengele was not some backwater a sadist. And this is the important part of this column. Because you think these people sent by CFIA are sadists who want to kill things? They're following government orders, just like the Nazis said. Mengele was not some backwater, back alley sadist who got sexual kicks off of watching people suffer. He was a legitimate medical doctor and also had a PhD in philosophy. He was a doctor. Did you know that? It's a man who was not only a PhD, he was a medical doctor. He went on his education in the finest universities in Germany at that time. He wrote his thesis, this is I find this fascinating, on Hegel. Ironically, the man who was also the inspiration of Karl Marx, who created Das Kapital on the basis of Hegel's idea of thesis, antithesis, synthesis. Marx took that to mean it was going to be a communist utopia someday, because feudalism and capitalism would lead to communism. Sorry, Marx, you were quite wrong about that. So Mengele was a doctor, as were many academics who served the Nazis' killing machine. They knew as long as they experimented and their conclusions served the state, they would continue to receive funding. Well, science today is just as much in grip. Now, listen to this of the state, but also embraces the largesse of big pharma, that bloated corporate dictatorship that wants us addicted to drugs and vaccines. Yes, I do need them. And does not want herd immunity to provide a natural and profit-free response to disease. They don't want these ostriches to survive. They don't want any evidence of these ostriches to survive because that might conclude and prove that herd immunity works. This is why they want these ostriches killed. They want to destroy the evidence. And it just came to me. I don't think I've ever said that. In all the times we've talked about this, they want to destroy the evidence that herd immunity exists, that you don't need a vaccine for everything. I'm not anti-vaccine for everything, but I don't want an mRNA vaccine for anything. And guess what? Herd immunity still exists, and we can study these birds. And this is why the government wants them killed, because this government, this Carney government, is in the pocket of big pharma. Let's read some more. That's why this liberal government, bought and paid for by big pharma, wants to kill 399 ostriches that survived what could have been avian flu. The CFIA Gestapo won't even test the birds to see if there is any trace of the virus. And if the owners of Universal Ostrich Farms attempts to do so, what happens? I mean, this is incredible. 6 months in jail and a $200,000 fine for each bird tested. Is that insane? Yes, but it's also an admission that the birds are healthy and the CFIA is morally and intellectually bankrupt. So that's why this authoritarian Carney government is prepared to ignore real science, trample on property rights while stealing and killing farms, livestock, and livelihood. These little people don't matter to Carney. No, they're They are beyond Carney's care. There's no money in it for Big Pharma or for all the 103 companies that Carney remains invested in. Whatever happened to that? 103 conflicts of interest with Mark Carney. Did the mainstream media demand he follow up on that? No. No, not at all. And Mark Carney says, go ahead, make my day. I'll push back and I don't have to do anything for you. And that's Mark Carney. Carney still has 103 conflicts of interest because of his wide ranging globalist corporate interests. But he just shrugs it off like his favorite team isn't winning or won't be admitted to the World Series. Canada is being ruled by what is easily the most corrupt federal government in its history. Read that. And most Canadians, not you, dear readers and dear viewers, are apparently, if you believe the polls anymore, they're so enamored of Mark Carney that they just don't care how sick it is. And they've given him 58% support for what? Doing nothing? Stamping on our rights? Remember also that this is the country that celebrates death. Mark Carney and Justin Trudeau have made this a country that celebrates death. We are living in a death cult. And I might say that, and people say, "Well, what do you mean, David? We're living in a death cult." Well, this is a normal. No, it's not a normal country. It's gone beyond the parameters of a normal country. The Liberal government seems to think that having an abortion is not just foundational to Canada's Charter of Rights, and it's not. There's nothing in the Charter of Rights that says you have a right to an abortion. It most assuredly is not. But an act of but they also believe that having an abortion is an act of liberation for women. Even though women who support abortion say it's the most agonizing decision they've ever had to go through in their life, the most horrible thing they've ever had to go through in their life. And yet the Liberal government continually puts cabinet ministers up there saying, abortion is just foundational to our Charter of Rights, and women love to have abortions. I've never met a single woman who thinks they want to have an abortion or who's had one and says, oh, it was the time of my life. This is how stupid and inane and absolutely homicidal this Liberal government is. But Liberals kill the young and the old with their medical assistance in dying program. Have you noticed that lately? It's euthanasia. Oh, yeah. It started with what? People who were like 99 years old and decided they couldn't go on any longer. People who were 80 and had life-threatening diseases they didn't want to go through. Now it's everybody. You don't feel very well, you're depressed, take MAID, medical assistance. Take the euthanasia program. You've got some substance abuse problems, to alcohol or marijuana or anything else. Or take the MAID program. That'll take away your fears. This government is so damned corrupt. I'm beyond saying I don't like it. I hate it. The medical assistance in dying program has become increasingly broad in determining who is eligible to die. So when you're exterminating so many people, what's the life? What's the life of a few hundred ostriches? And why? Why would this government care? Why would this government care about these poor farmers in Edgewood, BC? Because Edgewood, BC, and that interior of BC, where I have visited many times, they don't vote Liberal. They usually vote conservative. And when I was a boy, they voted Reform Party. They don't like liberals there. Maybe that's why Mark Carney has completely ignored this. And I'm putting out, once again, anybody who's listening, Donald Trump needs to get involved. I know we just had the memorial service for Charlie Kirk. God bless him. I love him. But we need to focus on this event as well. Pierre Poilievre, where are you? Where have you been on this issue? It took you so long to weigh in on Tamara Leach and Chris Barber after you walked out and supported the Freedom Convoy when you wanted the leadership of the Conservative Party. When you wanted that, you were prepared to go out and say, oh, I'm with the convoy. Where are you today, Pierre Poilievre? Are you with the convoy? Are you with Chris Barber? Are you with Tamara Leach? Are you with this farm in BC that's being attacked, invaded, assaulted today by Mark Carney's Liberal government? Are you with them or not? Give me an answer and stop hiding, because you will not give us an answer. And I have said this many times in this show. I wanted you all to elect the Conservative government because I thought that was the best result of that last federal election, because I knew Mark Carney was taking us down to a road to perdition and absolute destruction. And I said, go ahead, let's elect a Conservative government. It's got to be better. All right, Pierre, I've known you for 20 years. Do something about this. Make something happen here. At least show that you've got the courage to stand up for what's right. We've got some more information for you here. Anyway, hope to have Katie on the show.
Documents in FBI possession, your possession, detail at least 20 men, including Mr. Jess Staley, CEO of Barclays Bank, who Jeffrey Epstein trafficked victims to. That list also includes at least 19 other individuals, one Hollywood producer worth a few $100 million, one royal prince, one high-profile individual in the music industry, one very prominent banker, one high-profile government official, one high-profile former politician, one owner of a car company in Italy, one rock star, one magician, at least 6 billionaires, including a billionaire from Canada.
The gentleman from Kentucky is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Patel, I watched some of your Senate hearing yesterday when Senator Kennedy asked you, you've seen most of the files, who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these women to besides himself? You replied, according to the transcript, there is no credible information that he trafficked them to anyone else. You also said somewhere in the hearing and here today that the problem is that the case files are constrained by limited search warrants from 2006 to 2007, and that the non-prosecution agreement hamstrung future investigations. Those constraints only apply to Southern District of Florida. They do not apply to Southern District of New York, the location of the 2019 sex trafficking indictment, which produced many things, including a series of FD 302 documents. According to victims who cooperated with the FBI in that investigation, these documents in FBI possession, your possession, detail at least 20 men, including Mr. Jess Staley, CEO of Barclays Bank, who Jeffrey Epstein trafficked victims to, victims including minors such as Virginia Roberts Giuffre, may she rest in peace. That list also includes at least 19 other individuals, one Hollywood producer worth a few $100 million, one royal prince, one high-profile individual in the music industry, one very prominent banker, one high-profile government official, one high-profile former politician, one owner of a car company in Italy, one rock star, one magician, at least 6 billionaires, including a billionaire from Canada. We know these people exist in the FBI files, the files that you control. I don't know exactly who they are, but the FBI does. Have you launched any investigations into any of these people, and have you seen these 302 documents?
Sir, I have asked my FBI agents to review the entirety of the Epstein files and bring forth any credible information. And we're working with Congress not only to divulge that information and produce it to you, but any investigations that arise from any credible investigation will be brought. There have been no new materials brought to me launching a new indictment.
So is the loophole here, or is it your assertion that these victims aren't credible, that the 302s maybe didn't produce credible statements that rise to a probable cause?
It's not my assertion, sir. It's the assertion of two different United States attorneys' offices from three separate administrations who investigated those same materials in lifetime.
Are the 302 documents in the FBI's possession?
They reviewed all that, yes, sir.
And so have you reviewed those 302 documents where the victims name the people who victimized them?
If I personally know, but the FBI has.
So how can you sit here and in front of the Senate and say there are no names?
I said
I named one today.
I said we are not in the practice at the Department of Justice FBI of releasing victims' names. That is not what we do. We are also not in the habit of releasing incredible information. That's not what we do. But multiple authorities have looked at the entirety of what we have.
Okay, I got to move on here. Were you present when the AG had the White House event when she released the binders to the social media influencers?
I was, yes.
So if you're willing to meet with social media influencers who stood to benefit from the sensational and sad stories of these victims, will you meet with the victims as well?
The FBI will meet with anyone who has new information.
Will you
Look at what's happening. Look at what's happening. In the days since Charlie's death, we have seen how his legacy has touched so many millions around the world. In Calgary, Canada, thousands gathered at City Hall to sing the American national anthem and raise up posters with the name Charlie Kirk. In Seoul, South.
So Donald Trump noticed that, well, I hope he notices this more often. But yes, Canadians have been saying, thank you, Charlie Kirk. And I have to be honest about this because as much as I love Charlie Kirk and I supported everything he did, talking as a university, I hate to say dropout, but he never finished university. But he went back to universities to convince the universities, don't bother. You're learning crap here. Use your mind. Use your mind, because that's what Charlie Kirk always said. Stop thinking you have to be validated by Marxist professors. Stop thinking you have to have left-wing scholastic experts tell you you're smart. You are smart. And Charlie Kirk did prove that. You don't have to go to Harvard or Yale to be proven to be intelligent. You don't have to go to your local community college necessarily if you're taking basket weaving 101. If you're taking a legitimate course in how to do a trade, Godspeed. But this is what Charlie Kirk was all about, saying, don't tell me I'm stupid because I didn't finish your indoctrination program. And you can call me stupid because I went on beyond my university's indoctrination program. But anyway, somehow I always kept my own mind through all of this. And I tell you, what Donald Trump said here, I hope it resonates with all Canadians. And, it's the crap that's coming out of Charlie Kirk right now. I'm not getting into the conspiracy theories because I'm not even saying they're conspiracy theories because once again, the FBI has failed Americans. Once again, the FBI has failed to provide a credible narrative. So I don't know if it's Mossad. I don't know if it's a leftist transgender individual. I don't know if it's the craziest theories that some sort of conservative went after him. I don't know because I'm not going to guess right now because that's all I'm doing with the U.S. news. And I have to tell you that. I couldn't get on the U.S. news last Friday because of all of the incredible stories going on about Charlie Kirk and the assassination. No room. I hope there is today, because we'll be talking about what's going on in, yeah, Edgewood, BC. Remember Edgewood? We have to get back to that because that's what's important for you or I. No matter what comes out of the Charlie Kirk memorial and the funeral, no matter what comes out of the assassination, we have to get back to what's important for Canada. And Charlie Kirk is important for Canada. I'm not saying that because I already see the red flag. You know, I loved what Charlie Kirk said. I love who Charlie Kirk was. But I love what the Ostrich Farm in Edgewood, BC is. I love those people very, very much. And I think we have to rally around them right now before it's too late. Because the Marxist Carney government wants to kill 399 healthy ostriches. So they can't be shown they were wrong. And I kept asking myself, why do they want to kill these ostriches? Why do they want to do it so bad? Because if they kill them, they can't, and they will get rid of the bodies. Yes, they'll incinerate the bodies. And because why? So they can't prove that the farm was right all along, that the herd developed immunity, that the herd didn't need another vaccine, that the herd was healthy. They don't want to hear that. Why? Because that's going to undermine the whole foundational experience of this Carney government. And what's that? Big pharma rules. I'm sorry, that's what it comes down to. So I really wish I had Katie on the show today. You know, I love to talk with her. But we've got a few more things to show you here.
There has been a sharp increase of known or suspected terrorists entering through our northern border. Our northern border. It's largely expansive. The enemy has adapted, and we need more focus on the northern border to stop known or suspected terrorists from coming in from places like China, Russia, the Middle East, Africa, Afghanistan.
And what can you tell us about the remaining threat posed by potential terrorist cells here in the United States?
The terrorist threat that continues to be posed by international terrorists here in the United States is one of my highest priorities. We are working through our intelligence community partners to identify those individuals, and we've taken down numerous individuals in numerous rings across this country to neutralize that terrorist threat, including in places like New York City, Los Angeles, and I believe Dallas, Texas, most recently.
How extensively did criminal cartels like Sinaloa, Jalisco, New Generation, MS-13, Trinidad, and others infiltrate?
Since becoming director, there's been a sharp decrease of border crossings for known or suspected terrorists from the southern border. But unfortunately, there has been a sharp increase of known or suspected terrorists entering through our northern border. And so what I'm trying to do is work with our northern border states and our interagency to tackle that problem. But it is an absolutely massive border that can't physically be sealed. So we're going to have to get creative and put more resources into that.
I don't doubt for a minute Kash Patel is concerned about Canadians contributing to the fentanyl crisis, because I know that's true. We know that the fentanyl is coming in at the Vancouver ports and it's being ignored. So Mark Carney can say, fentanyl? What fentanyl? There's no fentanyl coming in here. It's coming at the Vancouver ports. It's being exported to the interior of BC. It's being made into the fentanyl products that Americans can consume. It's being shoved over the border. And why do you think we haven't heard a word, or rarely a word, from our so-called fentanyl czar? This is all crap. You know it's crap. And we have to keep putting up with this because we have a government that is so corrupt, it's beyond belief. I want to show you this from the American U.S. ambassador to Canada.
Campaign where, you know, it was anti-American, elbows up, Me Too. You know, it was an anti-American campaign. That that has continued. That's disappointing.
Anti-American sentiment still burning bright in Canada.
It's disappointing how we feel we've been treated.
People now fuming over the U.S. ambassador's comments that he's disappointed with Canadians, suggesting he can't understand why they're so upset.
What is he on the rock or something? Like, does he know what's going on?
I would suggest that he gets a mirror and looks in it, because the issues that are between the US and Canada are caused by the US.
Please welcome Ambassador Hoekstra.
On Thursday, America's ambassador to Canada told a business audience he's frustrated.
I'm disappointed that I came to Canada, a Canada that it is very, very difficult to find Canadians who are passionate about the American-Canadian relationship.
And he took aim at politicians, too.
You ran a campaign where, it was anti-American, elbows up, Me Too, it was an anti-American campaign. That has continued. That's disappointing.
He also spoke out against the finance minister's recent comment that it's sad the U.S. turned its back on Canada. His response?
The tariff have been impacting a number of workers and sectors in Canada like we have not seen in a very long time.
Others less diplomatic.
Well, when you kick the dog, you can't blame it for snarling back. When you talk about annexation and you talk about 51st state and you treat your partner like a second class standing, and then say, well, you know what? I think that when you say things like elbows up, it's anti-American. I mean, it's gaslighting 101.
No matter what, Canadians are putting their thoughts into action.
All I know is I don't want to cross over right now to the U.S.
Many still traveling, shopping, and spending money in Canada, not the U.S.
Anytime any country, out of the blue slaps tariffs or starts raising the specter of annexation, of course Canadians are going to respond positively on the patriotic side.
The data backs that up. Numbers show Canadians have taken a big step back from the U.S.
So, Ashley, what do some of those figures show?
Erica, data from Statistics Canada shows the number of Canadians driving home from the U.S. dropped 34% in August compared to the same time last year. Book sales by Canadian authors are up, and U.S. alcohol sales down. Overall, Canadian exports to the U.S. have dropped slightly, about 2% this year. That's a $5 billion loss.
Thank God for that little warning. Yes, my mic was muted. Thank you for watching. And we will be back later today. If there's any action on my good friend Katie's farm, I don't pretend for a minute that I have been objective in the reporting about this, but I think there's been enough reporting on the government side that you need forceful reporting on the opposition side. And that's my philosophy about this. People have asked me. People said, "You're not being very objective, David. You're not a real objective reporter." Well, I have been over the years, over many issues. Were we objective? I ask you this. Were we objective about the Second World War and who should win? Were Canadian journalists objective about Adolf Hitler and the need to remove him from power? Were Canadian journalists objective about the need to win the Second World War? No, of course we weren't. And there are some times you have to side with the forces of good and the forces against the forces of evil. And this is one of those times. It's not just 309 ostriches. As much as my heart is pained for those birds and for that family, it's about your right to have your private property without the government stepping onto it with their big goddamn club-fitted feet and telling you they destroy you. It's about you saying, no, that's my livelihood. That's my dog. That's my cat. You can't take that. I tell you, if they tried to take my cat, they would best be denied. That's all I can say about that. Thank you for watching today. And we got more. I hope we have Katie on later. You know, these are difficult times. And I'm sick of conservative, so-called conservative broadcasters putting fake news out there. I saw one this morning, and I haven't watched anything all weekend, but it might have come out afterwards, about the protests on Friday, about a ridiculous contention that the Palestinian protests surrounded Mark Carney's office and the police ran away. This is bullshit. And I'm sick of conservatives or people who masquerade as conservatives. All they're doing is taking up your time and taking your money away because they don't believe in anything except themselves and making more money off of YouTube and social media. And I'm sick of these people. And I'm going to continue to fight them in the new year because they don't make any sense and they want to destroy the message because they're in it for the money. I'll talk about this more tomorrow. Believe me, I wish I could more today. Bye for now.